Hey, let's wrap up media days for the Spurs 2024 and then speak with Blake Wesley.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I am your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hope y'all are having a great day at work, wherever you may be doing. As long as you're staying out of trouble, all right? What are we talking about today? You can see on your screen, we're going to be wrapping up Spurs Media Day 2024. What stood out? Was there a common thread? What did Victor have to say? Chris Paul have to say? Pop have to say? We're going to get into all that and more, and then bring in a special guest, Blake Wesley. Got a chance to catch up with him at Media Day. We spoke to him about his role in the guard lineup. That's going to be interesting to hear his reaction, as well as so many other things, such as what he was working on in the offseason and why it was a happy time for him. You'll find out that in a few minutes right here on Locked On Spurs. As always, we thank y'all for making Locked On Spurs your first listen every single day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Ken's 5 Plus app, YouTube, pick a platform. We are there. And check out the Locked On Network in general, from MLB, NHL, NFL, NBA. We got it all covered at the Locked On Podcast Network. Yeah, so Media Day 2024 for your Spurs is a wrap. It was yesterday, and there was a lot of excitement. That's what it felt like. It felt like a lot of eagerness, I should say. Maybe excitement is not the word, just eagerness to get the season going. Even Devin Vassell, who shelved for most of training camp and the start of the season, was very eager to get things going. And that's the vibe that I felt. Maybe my guest feels differently about what he felt during the few hours we were there at the Spurs practice facility. But nevertheless, good vibes. You know, nobody was really down. Yes, it is day one. I get it. You know, they're only going to say positive things. But there were a few things that, you know, maybe stood out for me as far as, that's interesting. Is this something we can be looking out for? And there's some things that, okay, guys, maybe I need to pump the brakes. I think y'all already know what it's about. We're going to be talking about that in a few minutes. It's going to bring in our guest. He is back, everybody. He is Matt Guzman. Follow him on X at MattGZMAN. He is with Sports Illustrated Spurs. He covers for them for Sports Illustrated. Welcome back, Matt. I feel like I just saw you a couple of hours ago.
Yeah, it did. It really did. It flew by. It was a great day. I like what you said about good vibes. It definitely felt like that, both in the media section and with the players.
Yeah, it was good vibes all around. Matt and I, we got a chance to catch up, or at least talk with a couple of the players. We're going to be discussing that in just a few seconds. But before we dive into that, you talked about the good vibes that you felt during the conference chats with the media and the players. What did you leave when you exited out the first Spurs practice facility? What did you feel about the upcoming season?
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing that I took away from, the players that we heard from is that as much as we've talked about, Harrison Barnes, Chris Paul, those two veterans coming in to kind of be mentors, but also, assets on the court for these younger guys. I think as much as we've talked about that and hyped that up, it lived up to those expectations. From what we heard from Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes, they're ready to be those mentors for the young guys. And not only that, but the younger players are already looking up to them. They're recognizing how impactful they can be. And, just the kind of just how important they will be up this upcoming season, both on the court and in the locker room. So that was good to see, because it means that we weren't just, speculating something that wasn't there. This is a genuine feeling that everyone is kind of all in on. And it was cool to see that.
Yeah, it was really cool. It felt like kind of everybody was just reuniting after a few weeks. It felt like a few weeks. It was a few months, but there is no NBA offseason, so it went pretty fast. But yeah, I thought that Pop, said the right things. He always does in media day, that expectations are there. But overall, I walked away with the feeling of this team wants to win. And there's nowhere else to go but up after 22-win season. I get that. But for a while there, Matt, I don't know what you thought, but I felt like this team maybe could have. I get they want playoffs. I get it. Couple of players, Devin Vassell said playoffs. Sohan said playoffs.
Right.
Wemby said playoffs. But there was a part of me saying, like, I understand, guys. You're not going to say, oh, we're going to miss the playoffs. No, you're not going to say that. But do you feel like maybe now that you had some time to think about it, that maybe that whole idea about playoffs, the team should pump the brakes a bit or kind of wait and see? Let's see how this plays out first.
It's kind of a double-edged sword when you use that word so early. I remember I kind of perked up when I heard Devin say that for the first time, because in my head I was like, oh, I didn't know that they were going to straight up put that out there, because they're setting themselves up for failure. If they don't get to that level, it's going to be a bad look, because it's like, okay, well, if they were looking for playoffs and they thought they were that good, but they're not, what has gone wrong? But at the same time, I don't think it's ever a bad thing for teams, and specifically some of the team's leaders. So Vassell, not one of the oldest, but he's definitely going to be a big piece of this team moving forward. It is a good sign for him to be thinking big. That whole team should be thinking, how high can we get? How big can we get? How good can we get? How much can we play together? And I think if you put all of those things together, there's no reason that the Spurs can't make a playoff push. It's far from being guaranteed, far from being a lock, but as much as maybe they should be a little more cautious about just, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It's good to see that they're thinking big.
Yeah, I also walked away feeling good about the veterans the Spurs brought in, CP3 and Harrison Barnes. Everybody, Matt was a little nervous when Chris Paul came out. I'm being serious. He was like, oh my God, that's Chris Paul. This is so cool.
Right.
But I get it because I was that way with Manu. The first time I saw Manu up close in person, I was like, whoa, that's freaking Manu Ginobili. But I think those two guys are going to do well with the Spurs. Popovich noted it, especially with Chris Paul, saying that this is a team that lacked that kind of experience, that this team has not had that type of player on the roster of Chris Paul. And he also said that of Harrison Barnes when he said that he respects the what out of him. So these two guys are going to do well. I think they're going to be immediate impact guys, not just on the court, but in the locker room, Matt.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And Harrison Barnes was a player that I was high on, particularly over the offseason, because, he's not the Chris Paul, the ultra 20-year veteran that has been there and everywhere, but he's been with the Warriors. He's won an NBA championship with them. He's a really good 3-point shooter, and he does have plenty of experience. He's one of the older players on the roster. And so, the reason I liked him so much was because not only could he be that leader, but he provided a very useful skill for the Spurs that they've kind of been looking for the last 2-3 seasons. They haven't had 3-point shooting the way that they're looking to have. And Harrison Barnes is not, it doesn't completely fix the problem, but it takes it a step in the right direction. If you have a reliable shooter like Harrison Barnes, Harrison Ingram, even on a 2-way contract, if he can kind of develop the way that they hope he will, that's all of a sudden you have two really good guys that can hit from the perimeter. And so, I liked hearing Harrison Barnes just talk about, what he brings to the team and what he feels that he can provide to these younger players, both on the court, but also, when he's talking to them on the side and building that team chemistry, which is something that he touched on as well.
Yeah, make no mistake about it. This team wants to win, from Pop to Vassell to Wemby to CP3, et cetera, et cetera. They all said they want to win, and they're going to win. Yes, they can't get any worse than 22 wins. There's just no way. So they're going to add to their win total, but it just begs the question, just how much are they going to jump? Are they going to do what Vegas projects, around 34, 35, 36 wins? Are they going to get into the play-in? But in the West, you need at least 42. That's just think about getting in. So can they make a 22-win team last season into a 40-plus team to get into the play-in? We'll see. But they're on the right path as far as setting the tone, the vibe at Media Day. Now, only a few Spurs spoke. Wembanyama, Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes, Popovich, Keldon Johnson, and who am I missing here? Oh, and Harrison Barnes. And
Jeremy as well.
And Jeremy, thank you so much. Yeah, Jeremy Sohan spoke as well. So not all the team was out there. But nevertheless, if that's the representation of what the roster is feeling like, then so far so good. Now, training camp, by the time you're watching this, has already begun. So we'll see how they come out feeling out of day one of camp. But, I want to shift gears, and we'll talk about the players that you and I spoke about in just a few minutes. But let's look at what Victor had to say. Victor, again, kind of putting that team first mindset. He told everybody, he goes, I really don't care about y'all. He put it to the conference members there. He said, it was more important to those guys in the locker room and the coaching staff. So his mindset is in the right space. But what stood out is that he added a lot of size. He added quite a bit of size to his frame. I think it's going to help him moving into next season, Matt. Hey, I want to talk to you about FanDuel. You want to go to FanDuel.com right now. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So much when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You just got to go to FanDuel.com right now. Speaking of FanDuel.com, look, the NBA season is also around the corner. Spurs fans, time to have some fun with your silver and black on the court. The app is very easy to get, very easy to use, user-friendly, very intuitive. Make your picks, 1, 2, 3. Bet on parlays, bet on win spreads, totals. I mean, seriously, you can have so much fun with sports this sports season with FanDuel. Again, America's #1 sports book. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Another reason why you got to go to FanDuel when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Go to FanDuel.com right now, America's #1 sports book. Hey, I want to talk to you about Mudslingers Drive-Thru Coffee. Go there right now, San Antonio, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. Open every single day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. They have it all. Great menu, cold drinks, hot drinks, coffee, the signature drink, Mudslinger, iced lattes. Pick something you're craving. They'll have it. Check out the menu. We're a proud local sponsor of Locked On Spurs and a proud community member serving San Antonio the best coffee in the city. Go there right now. Open every single day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. They have the Lightning Bolt series, which includes the Alien, which is a drink made in honor of Victor Wembanyama. You got to try it. Speaking of which, hey, they have these drinks, like I was mentioned right now, the Lightning Bolt series. They're going to be containing Lotus Energy. That's 7 power plant extracts. That gives them flexibility to create new drinks. But if you want Red Bull, you just tell them and they'll put it in there. But the default will be Lotus Energy. Go there right now, 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. They even got mini donuts. Best spot in the city to get yourself some coffee. Go there right now, San Antonio. Follow them on social media at Mudslinger SATX. Go there right now because life is too short for bland coffee.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from the Cybertron Springs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Absolutely. And that was the thing that, since he showed up in the NBA, people were talking about, is his size going to be a problem? They were worried about him the way they were worried about Chet Holmgren. And obviously Chet missed his entire rookie season because of an injury. And so that was a legitimate fear for Victor to kind of, play half the season on minutes restriction. It's good that they were being cautious with him, but it showed that maybe he is a little bit vulnerable to injury or susceptible, I guess. And so to see him add some size and kind of put some frame and focus on his body, knowing that he needs to be able to stay healthy for this team, that was a big plus for sure. And he talked about it. He said, at first he didn't quite understand the question. I believe he was just like, how did this happen? And he said, well, I just, put in the work and that's something that he wanted to do. And it was funny you mentioned that he called out the media because he did. He could tell he wasn't trying to be mean about it, but he was like, I really don't care what everyone's saying. It's just, it's whatever my teammates need from me. And so I think he's definitely putting that team first. And he's been the leader that he's the Spurs have hoped he would become.
Yeah, he even downplayed the individual accolades when a reporter asked him, like, well, you're getting a lot of hype. You could be possibly one of the best players in the league, if not one of the best players. He said, yeah, okay, that's good. That it's a good testament to my abilities. But he went back to team ball. So that is really, really good to hear from your cornerstone piece player who has been thinking team first at all. I didn't get to ask you, though, what did you walk away with? What kind of impression did you leave when you exited Media Day 2024?
I think, I touched on this earlier. The veterans being in the place that they need to be and kind of taking that right mindset. Sometimes you see veterans in other sports like the NFL where, they're like, I'm not going to mentor him, or like, that's not my job to do. These veterans are finding a good balance. And that was something that I've touched on with Chris Paul. Finding out the balance between, hey, I know that I'm one of the oldest guys, so by definition, I'm going to be expected to be a mentor and be a leader. But also, I want to play basketball and I want to learn from my teammates, and I don't just want to be a coach. And so I think that this team is it's constructed a lot differently than it was last season, just by adding those two pieces, by adding a couple of new rookies who are expected to play huge roles. And I think that everyone's in a good place. Everyone kind of understands their role, whether it's the younger players knowing that they have things to learn from Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes, or whether it's the veterans knowing that they have things to teach, but also there's ways that they can impact the floor without just being the mentor. Something that I was or that interested me too was that coach kind of talked about Chris Paul and saying he wasn't even going to really coach him because he was just going to confuse everything that he's already known to this point. He wanted Chris Paul to be Chris Paul. And so I think this team is very good about knowing who does what, how the players are going to interact with each other, but also just as a whole, how they can put the best product on the court. And I think it was good to see that they've kind of figured that out already. And I can only expect that to continue to grow.
But make no mistake about it. Chris Paul made it very, very clear that he ain't here to coach. He brought it
Right.
up again. He focused on the minutes. He repeated it over. He goes, I came here for minutes. I came here to play. He said, if I'm going to leave my family, I want to go to a good situation. So he's still focused on getting that PT. Last season, I think he averaged a career low and like just close to about 21 minutes per game.
Right.
So he ain't used to that. But he didn't, again, like Matt said, he didn't scoff at the idea of helping the young guys. He said it at an introduction press conference. He said it again yesterday, media day, that he will be there to help him, and that leads to my chat with him. Well, my quick QA with him. I asked him and said, if there's one thing that, from looking from the outside in, Chris Paul, if you think the Spurs needs, and he just kind of downplayed it. You were sitting next to me, Matt. He said, "Oh, that's for Pop," but then he did bring in something I thought was very interesting. He said, if anything I could do is calmness. He said I could bring a calming force to the court. And you saw that last year. This Spurs team, just how many blown leads that they blow, left and right. I think there was a stat there after the first quarter. If they were leading after the first quarter to end the game, they were like 15-25. So they blew
It was pretty
I
rough.
mean,
I
it was
think
pretty rough.
go a little bit more specific too. They had 28 games that were considered crunch time by the NBA, and they lost 28 of those games. So
there
a
you
lot
have
of those games they could have had if they were a little more poised, a little more experienced.
Yeah. So from the crunch time stats that Matt just threw out to, but stat I said, they're just well below 500. If they were leading after the first quarter, they couldn't sustain it. So
Right.
you put that together, that's where the calmness comes in, and that's what I liked about him. What Chris Paul had to tell me is, it's like Chris Paul. He says he doesn't want to be a coach, but it's gonna happen. That's what I think about. Like, he says he's not there to coach. He's here not to do that. He's here wants to play. He wants to hoop, in his words, get wins, but it's kind of like it's gonna happen, and I think he's embracing it, and I like that about him. I
Right.
like that he's not saying like, yeah, oh, sorry, Steph Castle, you're on your own. Sorry, Blake Wesley, you're on your own. He's gonna do what he has to do, and look, it goes kind of, shoulder to shoulder there, so side by side. He wants to win. If you want to win, you got to get your teammates to perform well. So it's going to happen for him. But Popovich talked about how it's hard to put into words the type of impact that Chris Paul is going to give the Spurs young squad. And he's right, because we're going to see how this young Spurs squad responds to a floor general. They have not had that at
Right.
all. There's not an Avery Johnson. There's not a Mario Ellie or David Robinson or Tim Duncan wasn't loud, but I mean, he made it known that if you were messing up, you were messing up. How do you think does this young squad will respond to a Chris Paul who his former teammates say he could be a little rough on his current teammates?
Right. I mean, it's one of those things where you bring in a guy like Chris Paul or, any player that has as much experience as he does, and he's going to kind of have a way he does things. And some players, especially like I mentioned, other sports, when they're huge rosters, you see a lot more of other players not necessarily liking that leadership style. I don't think that's going to be a problem with Chris Paul, but he definitely does have his own way of doing things, and probably ways that we don't even know yet. He just showed up here in San Antonio. As the season goes on, I'm sure we'll hear a little bit of those and what he's like in the locker room. But I think that, like you said, they haven't had a floor general the last couple of years. And so to put him on that court and all of a sudden these players around him are getting better, namely Victor, if Victor can take a step forward simply because Chris Paul's on the court, on top of the improvements he's already been making over the offseason and the trajectory he's on personally, I just think it's going to be a ridiculous pairing, because I think he's going to learn exactly how to play alongside a point guard. And that's why I was so high on the idea of him and Stephon Castle. If I think it's a complete win if Stephon does take over for Chris Paul. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago. If Stephon Castle does come into that point guard role, he'll have learned adequately from Chris Paul. And I think that they can just continue to ride that high as they continue to grow, both he and Victor being only just 1 year apart.
He's Matt Guzman. Make sure to follow him on X at MattGZMAN. Do that right now. He writes for Sports Illustrated, or Sports Illustrated on Spurs, Spurs on Sports Illustrated. Just Google it. You'll find Matt, and check out what he is cooking over there on his neck of the woods. Matt, you also had a chance to talk with, I believe, Harrison Barnes as well, correct?
That's right.
What do you have to say?
I liked what I liked what I got from Harrison Barnes. I think he was a player I was waiting all season or all off season to kind of ask him, what does this look like for you as a mentor? Because we kind of knew, like you said, with Chris Paul, it's going to happen. As good as he is, and as much as he's been through,
Yeah.
it's natural that he's going to be that leader. Harrison Barnes is an older veteran, but he's not a pencil in for a natural leader. And so I was very curious just to know what he was going to do and what that kind of looked like for him and how he personally, planned to balance playing with his teammates and making threes, but also being a mentor, being a coach. And he just said that, it was one of those things he wanted to, he very much emphasized that everybody has to be on the same page. And that includes him, that includes his teammates. But he says that if everyone kind of get going on the right direction, which, is a good mixture of playing well and also learning from each other, communicating, he said it's going to pay dividends. And so that's something to kind of keep watch for is as Harrison Barnes does better, does the team do better? Is that something that he's going to kind of, is it going to be a positive correlation or not? So that's what I took away from him.
Yeah, exactly. And look, we know the veterans are going to make an impact. CP3, Barnes, it's going to happen no matter what. It's going to happen. You're going to be probably feeling it as early as week one, the difference on the court, especially if the crunch time games pop up during weeks 1 and 2, you'll see their impact. But other things that I walked away with, it was interesting to hear what Pop had to say about Sidy Sissoko. Did you notice that, Matt? He mentioned the word maturity. He said it's a maturity thing, but Pop didn't bag on him. He did say he's excited, to see what he can do. So there was that little tidbit on another. Do that what you may there, Spurs fans. We'll see what City can do anything as well in this new season. Other little tidbits that I kind of stick out for me is the Keldon Johnson 0 and 3 CP3 thing. Look,
Yes.
was it just me or Keldon wasn't Keldon? Like he was a little kind of quieter this media session, wasn't he?
He was, and from what I've heard, it sounds like he was just really locked in over the offseason. It kind of makes me think that he kind of kept to himself and did his thing, and maybe he was not quite snapped out of that yet. Realized like, hey, I got to talk to everybody now. But there was something, and the other thing between the two numbers, neither Chris or Keldon had very much to say about the transaction that happened between the two.
Very quiet about it, weren't they? Yeah,
they said Chris Paul was just like, oh, we're all good, and so. I'm very curious to see, or I'm sure we're not going to hear about it, but I'm very curious to know if something did end up happening there.
I say they threw him in the cage and the best man wins. Whoever came out of there,
they were training all off season, right? With the boxing.
They were, yeah. So yes, the number controversy did pop up. According to Keldon, though, Matt, he said that he just was like, whatever, take it, Chris Paul, go for it, respect kind of thing. But yeah, Keldon wasn't his typical Keldon jovial, chipper self, but as Matt said, maybe we'll just chalk it up to he's still being in off-season mode.
That's right.
Yeah, hopefully that's all it is. I also had a chance to talk to Jeremy Sohan, and sure, Vegas has the Spurs around 34, 35, 36 wins. I think the last check is 36 wins. But if you still kind of listen to the noise a bit, there's some that think that this Spurs team could be a little bit of a problem next season. I asked him about that. I go, hey, do you buy into that and everything? And he was like, nope. He goes, they just want to win. They just want to win. They want to focus on the task at hand. And I had asked Blake Wesley, and by the way, Blake Wesley is coming up next right here on Locked On Spurs about the same thing. And he told me that this Spurs team is scary. You heard what Sohan told me. I just told you what Blake Wesley told me about this team being scary. Do you agree or disagree? This could be a scary team.
I think so. And I say that not to mean that, they're going to be an instant contender at the top of the Western Conference, but they're no longer, if things go according to plan and Victor Wembanyama takes that huge step forward and Chris Paul just makes everybody around him better and Harrison Barnes does well in his shooting and Jeremy finds a more natural role. If all of those things happen, they're no longer going to be a team that not that any team in the NBA kind of looks down on other teams, but last season it was like, okay, yeah, they have Victor, but they don't know how to hold a lead, or their offense kind of it's a little it gets stagnant at times. There were obvious flaws with that team that won't necessarily be able to be looked at the same way this season if things go well. And so I think, the Spurs have the potential to go on the road and play big teams and get wins, scrap out wins and kind of just be a better version of themselves from last year. And I think that that's definitely where they're looking to be. So I could definitely see them being a problem.
Who else did you speak with during media day?
Yeah, Devin Vassell was the one that I got to talk to as well. 2 off seasons ago, right before the year that they got Victor, he had missed two months. And so it was one of those things where he got paid, but his health was going to be a big part of how good he could really be next to Victor. And they had to figure each other out. It wasn't quite the duo that maybe the Spurs had envisioned initially. But, this upcoming season is going to be a big one for that pair. So I asked Devin, he talked about his health and not wanting to miss back-to-backs. And he says when he's healthy, he knows he can play with the best of them. So I asked him, I said, you've said this, what does that mean to you? And now that you've had this setback, because, he's going to miss the beginning of the regular season, I said, does that make you any more motivated to kind of hit the ground running and really show what you can do when you get back? And he kind of talked about it. He was like, yeah, it does. Like, I'm excited. I like everybody that's in the building. We're all good. And he ended it. He had a little quote that I loved. He was just like, when I get back on the court, he said, trust me, you'll see. And that was it.
Yeah.
He does this upcoming season, and he does show everybody, hey, here's what really I can be. And he's going to be a big part of this team.
Yeah, if you really think about it too, he's not going to be away that long.
Right.
He's projected to come back around November 1, at least get reevaluated. But he won't be out of not like a month. He's basically game wise. I think he's maybe missing 2 or 3, something to that effect.
Yeah,
so
it won't be too crazy.
Yeah, it won't be too crazy. And plus, too, that gives time for Castle to do his thing and
absolutely
Keldon maybe to get some run. So overall though, Devin definitely was in good spirits, good mood. Everybody seemed to be really positive about the new season, and it just makes me think like, sure, guys, y'all can say this on media day, and you got no choice because it's media day. You're not going to be saying there, like I said, oh, we're gonna miss the playoffs now. We're good. We're gonna miss it.
Right.
Yeah, but we'll see how they come together in preseason and in training camp and at the start of the regular season. There's a guard kind of issue now. We and think about this too, man. And I talked to Blake Wesley about this, and he's coming up next. There's Trey Jones, there's Steph Castle, there's CP3, there's Wesley, and there's Malachi Flynn. I mean, something's got to give. So there's so many questions going into training camp. So many questions coming out of media day. One of the big one is, will Vassell come back at the target date of around November 1? We'll see. How will Wemby's size affect added muscle, added size affect him to be fluid and swift? We'll see. I don't think it's going to be that much of an issue, but we'll see. What else? What were there any things that maybe concerned you during media day that kind of left you scratching your head, like, yeah, maybe, I don't know, Spurs. We'll see how this plays out. Was there anything that bothered you, concerned you?
I'm not so sure that there was actually. It was good that you brought it up earlier. It might have been that Keldon just seemed a little different. He wasn't being. I remember there was a game last season where he walked in and they had just lost a big game, and everyone was like, why are you so happy? And he said, well, I'm just me. I'm going to keep laughing. And that way, whenever we do well, you guys will look at me and say, man, that guy has been the same since we were bad. And he's been the same this whole time. He made a big point about that. And so, not to see him, or to see him a little bit more quiet and reserved today was interesting, but I'm not so sure that it's going to stick. Other than that, I thought, we summed it up pretty well at the beginning. It was really good vibes. I think everyone had good things to say, and they seemed to be pretty confident and excited about, this new team.
Yeah, the only thing I think of is maybe he's just trying to, I want to say be a clown. I'm not calling him a clown or anything, but he tends to be the little more hyper kind of guy. Maybe he's just trying to bring it down a bit, so he can just stay focused. Like you said, he's not off that focused. I got in shape. I'm coming to training camp anew. I got a new jersey number. I got a new physique and whatnot. So let's rock and roll. Hopefully it's just that. But yeah, like I said, I was talking to Blake Wesley when Keldon Johnson was talking when I came back, but I could still hear him while I was talking to Blake, and I was like, man, that's not the Keldon Johnson I know. That's definitely the Jeremy. Looked like he was just still Jeremy, just kind of like that happy go lucky, I painted my hair, purple, yeah, and Barnes, the consummate pro, CP3, kind of telling you how it is and whatnot. Pop, he definitely was in rare form. He wanted to do the entire conference chat standing up with no mic. Then he was forced to go sit near the mic because that's
Well,
what
he
you
didn't even
need.
sit. He stayed standing the entire time, which was really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Actually, it was tough to discern some of the things he was saying on the audio recording.
Yeah, it was.
He
Yeah.
was too far from the mic. It was. I mean, he's Pop. He's always going to do it however he feels.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So, Pop is in rare form. And overall, the team looked good. They felt good. But we'll see how they do in training camp. He is Matt Guzman. He's with Sports Illustrated Spurs coverage. You want to make sure to follow him on X at MattGZMAN. You see it on your screen. Matt, we kind of hinted about who you spoke with, who you talked with. What do you got coming up for Spurs fans on your side of things?
That's right. Well, I'm still working with some of the team to figure out if I can talk to Steph by myself, because I've gotten a good chance to speak with his high school coach and his childhood best friend, and I'm speaking with Dan Hurley in a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. So kind of working to piece that together and just figure out who Stephon Castle is before he hits the court. But other than that, I really liked what I got from Devin today, so I'll have a feature on that later today, just kind of about his injury and how he's ready to show, what he's capable of this upcoming season. I think there's no better time to do it than now.
See, that's why you got to follow Matt on X at MattGZMAN. Do that right now. By the way, he has incredible taste in shoes, everybody. You should see the shoes. I wasn't, hey, Matt, I wasn't the only one that complimented you. There was another person that looked it up. So
yeah, she said they were pretty at first, and I was like, okay.
Well, but she caught that. She caught that. And she was like, oh, no, they're, what did she say? They're dapper, I think. She said
yes,
dapper.
That was the word, yeah.
Yeah, she said, they're dapper. And then me being the jokey, I was like, oh, he called mine pretty. Mike wearing just basic sneakers. Because they Spurs told us to wear kind of sneakerish shoes, so everybody was in sneakers. It said, no, but not Matt, though. Matt showed up looking fancy pants there, buddy.
Now, for anybody who wasn't there, halfway across the gym, you could see Jeff's watch glimmering in the light.
It was right, the really watch thing. Yeah. Yeah, when I walked in, I was hanging out with the Ken's 5 crew when we got set up, and then sat with Matt for a good chunk of the thing, and he said, hey, Jeff, your watch was shining across the court. I was like, oh, my God, here we go. But it was all fun. Media days are wrapped. Practice is here. Training camp is here. Can you believe it, everybody? The offseason is officially over. It's time to get to business. And speaking of business, make sure you follow Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. The list goes on and on. We'll be back tomorrow, but don't go anywhere. Do not go anywhere. Because we got Blake Wesley. Yeah, let me set that up for you guys. So we got Blake Wesley next. Now, during Media Day, I had a chance to catch up with Blake. Quick chat with them. They were busy. So you hear what he has to say about the point guard spot. His thoughts about that. It's kind of a logjam there. Why he had a happy offseason. What his expectations are. Why he thinks the Spurs will be a scary team. That's coming up next. But again, make sure to follow Matt on X at MattGZMAN. Make sure to follow me at JeffGSpursZone. You see it on your screen. We'll be back tomorrow. So for Matt Guzman, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock in this episode of Locked On Spurs. But up next is Mr. Blake Wesley. Hey, Blake, how you feeling heading into the new season?
I feel good. Had a great summer. Happy summer. All I did was work out and train my mind to get ready for the season. So I'm excited.
Why was it a happy summer?
I'm happy. I'm in the NBA.
Yeah.
I'm blessed. I'm thankful. I got a great family. Got a great organization I play for. So why not be happy?
Yeah, we're getting Chris Paul. You got, obviously rookie Steph Castle, Trey Jones. How you feeling fit into that whole guard rotation there?
I just feel good. I'm just gonna do my role, play my role, play defense, get guy shots, push the pace, and looking to win. I'm gonna do my role, play my role. So yeah.
Have you talked to Chris Paul yet? Any of the veterans that come in, and what have they told you?
I've been talking to Chris Paul almost every day. He was on my team this last week and the week before. So he's been a good role model to me. That's the most a point guard ever talked to me and give me knowledge. And I'm thankful for him. And so yeah.
And what was that knowledge he gave you?
Really just I remember one time shot a not good shot, and then next time he was like, you can get that anytime. You can go to the rim, you can use your speed and get to the rim anytime you want. So I mean, just him giving me points to make me better is good.
Do you still feel kind of like kind of the new kid on the block, or no? Because you're not a rookie, and you're not a young guy. You're.
I don't feel like I'm the new kid on the block. I feel like I'm not a vet, but I am. Not really. It feels weird. I've been here for 3 years. It went by fast, so I remember when I was a rookie and I had hair, and I remember I tore my MCL. So
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
It's been a journey. So yeah.
Over the offseason, did you work on your body, anything like that, lose some weight or anything, put on some size?
I definitely worked on my body. I think I gained about 5 or 6 pounds, but nothing really too crazy.
Yeah.
I've been working on my shot. That's the main focus I worked on this summer. So yeah.
And how did that come along your shot? What do you see the most improvement over the offseason?
More consistency. That's my big thing is staying more consistent. That's what I'm trying to work on.
Yeah.
That's what everybody's trying to work on, but I'm trying to be more consistent. So, yeah.
What do you think the team expectations are? What do you think the mindset is going into the new season? Because 22-win season is only where a place to go up.
We looking to do better for sure this year. We got vets. We got Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes, Stephon. So I feel like we're gonna be a scary team this year. Everybody's committed. Everybody's locked in. New coaching staff, new people that came to the Spurs. So I feel like everybody just locked in and ready for the season. People are expecting a lot from us, especially from everybody. I mean, Victor's gotten better. Everybody has gotten better over the years. Over the time, over the summer, so we're all excited for the season.
No, over the offseason, there's been kind of a little bit of noise about this team. Not loud, but there's a little noise. I'm saying, hey, this you mentioned could be a scary team. This is a team that you can't sleep on. You know, do you think that adds any more pressure for you guys?
Not really. We need all the doubters we need because it's only gonna motivate us. I love when people doubt us because it's only gonna motivate us, everybody on the coaching staff. So, like I said, we're gonna be scared this year, and I'm excited for the season.
Why do you think this team's gonna be scary?
Just the pieces we got, the pieces we added. So all I can say is just be ready.
Thank you.
Yep.